that we just had our lunch.
Very rough.
Hello, Makati. Hello, world. This is Attorney Angel, and I'm your legal angel. Hi, my fellow angels. Today, I will be sharing with you snippets of the recorded lecture I gave to the League of Humanities on the topic of the basics of the Bill of Rights. Here it goes.
Now we are ready to begin the discussion on the Bill of Rights. So as you can see on the screen, it is entitled The Basics of the Bill of Rights. Basics because I will just discuss with you the basic concepts, principles, and doctrines involving the Bill of Rights. And I would like to make it as simple as possible for you to understand. But as a warning, we will be encountering some legal terms along the way and in the process of discussion, and I hope you please bear with me, and I hope that you will not get information overload. Anyway, okay, before we go straight to the Bill of Rights, let's have a brief discussion on the state and the Constitution. Why? Because I would like you to see the big picture. Okay? There is an interplay between the state and the Constitution, and of course, the Bill of Rights, because the Bill of Rights is contained in the Constitution. Okay? So, as you discussed in your constitutional law class, which I know you have in your undergraduate as one of the subjects, okay, GE subject, if I'm not mistaken. Now, you can recall that the state consists of territory, government, population, and sovereignty. So these are the essential elements of the state. And why are these important? Because all the workings, and as I've said, the interplay of these essential elements are very important and significant to the Constitution and also the Bill of Rights. Okay? So, going to the Constitution, you will see that in the definition of the Constitution, in the purpose and significance, the interplay of the elements of the states or essential elements or components of the state are involved. Okay, so you know that the Constitution is the fundamental law of the land. It is the supreme law of the land, and in the hierarchy of laws, it is topmost. It occupies the highest position, such that all of the other laws below the Constitution would be void if it is not in accord with the Constitution. Now, let me give you the definition or meaning of the Constitution in one of the cases decided by the Supreme Court. Okay? In the case of Malcolm and Laurel, in the case of Marcos versus Manlapos, the Constitution was defined by the Supreme Court as the law for rulers and people, equally in war and in peace, and covers with the shield of its protection all classes of men at all times and under all circumstances. Now, from that definition alone, you will see that there is an interplay of the elements of the state, more particularly the government and the population, and of course, the jurisdiction. And even if it does not state categorically about the element and sovereignty, it is included therein. Okay? And another definition by Justice Malcolm and Justice Laurel, this is the body of rules and maxims in accordance with which the powers of sovereignty are habitually exercised. Okay? So it is a written instrument enacted by the direct action of the people by which the fundamental powers of the government are established, limited, and defined, and by which those powers are distributed among the several departments for their safe and useful exercise and for the benefit of the body politic. Okay? So you see, that's why we started with the discussion on the state and its essential elements, then we go to the Constitution, okay? And for the purpose and significance, needless to state, as of course we already mentioned, it is the supreme law of the land, the fundamental law of the land. And being the supreme law of the land, It is the symbol and monument of the people's will, because the Constitution derives its power from the people, from the sovereign capacity of the people. Okay? And also, as you know, the Constitution outlines the powers, the infrastructure of the government. Okay? The executive, the legislative, and the judicial branches of government. Okay? And we also know that there is the principle of checks and balances, and that these are three co-equal branches of the government. Now let's go to the Philippine Constitution. The prevailing constitution in our country is the 1987 Philippine Constitution. But as you know, we have had other constitutions in the past. Throughout the history of the Philippines, we have had several constitutions. And if you review your Philippine history, we had our Malolos Constitution. We also had predecessors of the 1987 Philippine Constitution. During the American period, we had the Philippine Bill of 1902. Then we also had the Jones Law or Jones Act in 1916. We also had the 1935 Constitution during the Commonwealth period, the 1943 Constitution during the Japanese occupation, the 1973 Constitution during the Marcos regime. Then, right after the EDSA People Power Revolution, we had the 1986 Freedom Constitution. Then finally, now we have the 1987 Philippine Constitution. And if you watch the news and read the newspapers, there is a looming cha-cha in the air. So, cha-cha, which means charter change. But let's wait and see what happens. Alright. The 1987 Philippine Constitution contains provisions which are somewhat a safety net to prevent the abuses that happened in the past, specifically during the Marcos regime. Okay? We have safeguards on the proclamation of martial law, as well as to the terms of elected officials. And there are many others which are also placed as a safeguard in the 1987 Philippine Constitution. But for me, the heart and soul of the 1987 Philippine Constitution is Article 3, Sections 1 to 22 on the Bill of Rights. Of course, you all know the other parts of the Constitution. Okay, and for today, I believe you will discuss two articles. Article 3, which is assigned to me in Article 13, if I remember correctly, that will be discussed by Dean Stanley Fernandez. Having laid down the basic discussion on the state and the Constitution, we are now ready to delve into the discussion of the Bill of Rights. Let me read to you first a quote from Thomas Jefferson. He said that a Bill of Rights is what the people are entitled to against every government, and what no just government should refuse or rest on inference. He's correct. Okay? The Bill of Rights contain fundamental rights which are inherent and essential to liberty and a free form of government. Free form of government such as a republican type of government like the Republic of the Philippines. Okay? These are fundamental rights or essential rights which need not be granted by the government. These are rights which the government cannot take away from us, the citizens or the members of the population. And these are rights which the government must protect. Okay? Earlier, I said that I believe the Bill of Rights is the heart of the 1987 Philippine Constitution because it is. It is an indispensable part of the Constitution. And one of the most important parts of our fundamental law or supreme law is the Bill of Rights because it aims at balancing power and freedom. Okay? The power of the government and the freedoms of the individual or freedom of the individual members of the population or its citizens. Okay? Two important things to remember is that the Bill of Rights, one, is contains restrictions which are directed against the government. And on the other hand, number two, it also provides an explicit identification and limitations as well of the different rights of the individual. So that's why I said that it's a balancing act between power and freedom or government and rights of individuals. Okay? And all of these are uh, under the umbrella of the Constitution. Okay? Because it all boils down to the Constitution, an overarching um, foundation hovering or governing power and freedom or the government and the rights of the members of the population or the individuals or the citizens. Okay. Now, um, okay. Now we go to the Bill of Rights, the meaning and purpose of the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights refers to the declaration and enumeration of the fundamental civil and political rights of a person with the primary purpose of safeguarding the person from violations by the government as well as by individuals and group of individuals. And it has four major components. The protection of the following rights. Protection of civil rights, number one. Number two, political rights. Number three, socioeconomic rights. And number four, the rights of the accused. Now, for civil rights, these are rights belonging to individuals by virtue of their citizenship. Like, for example, right to contract marriage, right to enter into contracts. Those are part of civil rights, of our civil rights. Now, for political rights, these are rights which pertain to the citizenship of the individual vis-a-vis the administration of the government. So it includes, like, for example, the right to vote or the right to suffrage, the right to hold office. Yes. For socioeconomic rights, these are rights which ensure the well-being and economic security of the individual. For example, the right to earn a livelihood. Okay? And of course, the rights of the accused. These are the protection given to the person of an accused in any criminal case. So, towards the latter part of the Bill of Rights, the rights of the accused are discussed. Like, for example, the right to bail, uh, the right to counts, the right to speedy disposition of cases, etc., etc. Inside the 1987 Philippine Constitution, we can find the Bill of Rights in Article 3, and it is composed of 22 sections. So, Article 3, sections 1 to 22. Here is a summary of sections 1 to 22. I will no longer read to you the exact provisions. I hope that you can get a copy, even if it's a soft copy of the Philippine Constitution, the 1987 Philippine Constitution, and you go to Article 3, sections 1 to 22. Okay, so in section 1, it talks about due process of law and equal protection of the laws. Section 2 about searches and seizures. Section 3 on privacy of communication and correspondence. Section 4 the freedom of speech and of press. Section 5 freedom of religion. Section 6 liberty of abode and travel. Section 7 right to information. Section 8, right of association. Section 9, taking of private property for public use. Section 10, prohibition against impairment of obligation of contracts. Section 11, free access to courts and quasi-judicial bodies and adequate legal assistance. Section 12, right to remain silent and to have competent and independent counsel. Section 13, right to bail. Section 14, due process in criminal proceedings. Section 15, habeas corpus. Section 16, speedy disposition of cases before all judicial, quasi-judicial, or administrative bodies. Section 17, right against self-incrimination. Section 18, freedom of political belief and freedom against involuntary servitude. Section 19, right against excessive fines, degrading or inhuman punishment. Section 20, right against imprisonment for debt and non-payment of a poll tax. Section 21, the right to bail. And Section 22, right against ex post facto law or bill of attainder. The opening salvo in Section 1 of the Bill of Rights, Article 3 of the 1987 Constitution, states that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall any person be denied the equal protection of the law. So in this provision, there are big words. So you have due process, you have equal protection, and of course, life, liberty, and property. Now, when we speak about Section 1, the scope of protection covers everyone, whether citizen or alien, whether natural person or juridical person. And this has two components. We're speaking about due process. There are two components or requirements: substantive due process and procedural due process. Okay. So when you say substantive due process, it refers to the law being enforced, that we must ensure that the law being enforced is not oppressive, it is valid, it is reasonable, it is just. And when you say that procedural due process, it refers to the opportunity to be heard, meaning to say, uh, you must be given a chance to defend yourself or explain your side through the general rules of procedure, have a fair trial in a court of justice or in the appropriate tribunal, whether quasi-judicial body or administrative bodies, depending on the case. So, when you speak about life, you refer not only to mere existence. You refer to the right to have a good and quality life. Okay? Right to live, right to be alive, right to one's limbs against physical harm, etc. So, when you say liberty, it connotes freedom. Also, uh, freedom to enjoy the God-given faculties without restraint. When you say property, it is the right to the thing itself or the right over the thing itself. There's a difference between the right to the thing and the right over the thing. Because when you say right to the thing refers to something which is capable of appropriation. But when you say right over the thing, it refers to the exercise of your right over the thing, whether to possess, to own, to sell, or to dispose or to destroy such thing. the Constitution also treats property in the manner or in the sense of a right. Like, for example, the right to work, the right to a profession, the right to trade, and the like, etc. Okay. So, what we have here is the meaning of due process of law, which was laid down in the case of Dartmouth versus Woodward in 1819. This is a famous reference to what the essence of due process is. So, in this case, due process is a law which hears before it condemns, which proceeds upon inquiry and renders judgment only after a trial. So, in simple terms, when you say due process, it is a constitutional guarantee in which you are given a chance to be heard, to explain your side, and not to be deprived of life, liberty, or property by the government hastily or unsupported. Okay, or in other words, your guarantee under the Constitution of being hastily deprived of life, liberty, or property without support of evidence or without having to go through fair trial in the appropriate court or in the appropriate tribunal. Okay. As to the equal protection of the laws or equal protection, um, in Tolentino versus Board of Accountancy, decided by the Supreme Court in 1951, it said that no person or class of persons shall be deprived of the same protection of the laws which is enjoyed by other persons or other classes in the same place and in like circumstances. So basically, this is what is equal protection all about. But in simple terms, we can say that this means that all persons or things similarly situated should be treated alike. But remember that equality here applies only among equals. Okay? And the very important rule that you must remember here is the rule on reasonable classification. It is a well-established rule that reasonable classification does not violate the constitutional guarantee on equal protection of the laws if the qualification has all the following requisites. One is it must be based upon substantial distinction. Two is it must be germane to the purpose of the law. Three is that it must not be limited to existing conditions. And fourth, it must apply equally to all members of the class.
Thanks for listening and for watching. I hope you learned something from my discussion. Hopefully, I'll be able to upload the second part. For those who have not yet subscribed, please like, subscribe, share, follow, and leave your comments and suggestions below. Positive vibes only. Be generous, be kind, be a blessing to others, and always remember to glorify God with a grateful heart. This is Attorney Angel, and I'm your legal angel. Sarang